Kaufman is alive. I look at comic books new and old. Today I'm looking at an old comic book, Bishop #1 by Marvel Comics. This came out in December of 1994. It's $2.95 when it first came out, which is kind of expensive for a comic book in 1994. But it's got this cool silver foil look on the cover here on Bishop's power. Definitely got me picking this up off the rack when it came out back in 94. I was always a fan of Bishop. I love seeing the X-Men characters get solo series. You know, Wolverine always had an ongoing, and I always wish Gambit had had one, and Bishop, some of the other X-Men. And this issue is drawn by Carlos Pacheco. He's the penciler. Cam Smith does the inks. We got John Ostrander doing the writing. It's a name I recognize from some DC comics. I think he's done some Suicide Squad. He was a big part of that. And maybe Infinity Inc. as well. Some weird color choices on some of the stuff here, though. But it's a big, bright, and colorful book. Like, I feel like the bullets here, they're done in pink. That looks kind of weird. But Carlos Pacheco is on art here, like I said. Great artist. He passed away a couple years ago, unfortunately. But he's got such a fluid-looking style. A lot different from a guy like Jim Lee or Rob Liefeld previously doing X titles, where they've got a very jagged, lots of straight lines. Carlos Pacheco does lots of fluid lines and rounded figures, big buff bodies here. I think he's a really great artist to draw Bishop. Really love this panel here of all these guys with their big giant cybernetic guns blasting away at Bishop and his team here, the XSE from the future. Some really cool pages here. I love this double panel down here of Bishop's partners getting blown up. We see Bishop say computer rerun program. So, of course, we get the classic X-Men trope of this is just a danger room sequence. So Professor X and Storm and Forge, they're all kind of wondering why Bishop keeps running this sequence over and over again. He keeps coming up with the same result. He says, let me run another scenario. And they say, no, Bishop, time to come out. That's an order. So he comes out and Storm's explaining to Bishop that he needs to start learning a bit about the current timeline that he lives in, because he comes from the future, of course. And she invites him out to come with him into the city, experience some life. He says, no, thank you, but no. And Storm says, you have a lovely way with a compliment, Bishop. Most men would not need an order to spend time with me. And Forge says, wouldn't have to tell me twice. So Bishop changes his mind. He decides he'll go out with Storm. And then Bishop asks Forge for a favor. He's got this hologram projector, but he says it's been malfunctioning. And it's got memories of where he came from. It's actually got memories of his sister in there, and he wants Forge to fix it. And Forge says it's technology he's not too familiar with, but he's willing to give it a try. So, and we just see Shard's like shadow here in the background. I don't know if she's actually there in the room, maybe, sneaking around, and she shows up in a later issue here, or if this is just a reminder of who it is. Then we see some character jumping around this pond here. We find out that it's Bantam, who's the former henchman of Fitzroy, Trevor Fitzroy, the X-Men villain, who was a big villain against Bishop. And we find out he's being stalked by this other character named Mountjoy. And this is Mountjoy's first appearance, so it says here on the cover, collector's item. I guess in a sense it's kind of a collector's item, although Mountjoy is not a very prolific X-Men villain or anything. Kind of a C-list villain to say the least. But this is his first appearance. He's never a villain that really I was too much into. He's got kind of an interesting power though. He's basically a body snatcher, but he's got two abilities. One where he can take over an entire body, and another one where he just absorbs other people's abilities and memories and thoughts and basically their whole souls. So we see Bishop and Storm. They're out on the town here. They get confronted by Bantam, who lets Bishop know that Mountjoy is still out. Bishop can't understand how Mountjoy's here because he's from Bishop's future, but apparently he bonded with Bantam, and when Bantam went through the teleportation device, Mountjoy came through with him. So we learn all that here, and then Mountjoy shows up kind of randomly and at the same time and abducts Storm here. So he gets Storm's powers. Some really awesome looking pages here. I love this one of Mountjoy. Storm's trying to get out of him basically. But he's got her powers now, so we get a battle between Mountjoy and Bishop here. We get to see some of the comics that were coming out around this time. This is pretty cool. They got How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which was just a great book that just taught so many lessons on how to draw comics. I had that all growing up. We've got the Marvels. Of course, the Gambit miniseries is out around this time. Wolverine number 88 was just coming out, which was the first time Deadpool and Wolverine ever went up against each other. We got X-Men number 39, which was the Adam X story. Generation X number 2 is just coming out, so that book had just launched. And of course we got Cable 1 of 4. It says, I'll read it since we're looking through this book. It says, at last, the X-Men's own time-displaced hero in his first popularly demanded limited series. Repercussions from Bishop's return to the past hit home with a vengeance when a criminal mutant from the future called Mountjoy appears to wreak havoc on this era. Special guest appearance by Storm. That pretty much does sum up this issue here. So Mountjoy doesn't think Bishop is going to kill Mountjoy because Storm is basically inside of him. And Bishop is able to reverse Mountjoy's power and he gets Storm out of her. But Mountjoy says he still has a knife. He puts it to Bishop's throat, but Storm's able to intervene and keep that from happening. And in a weird moment, she calls him Mountbank. She says, do not go away, Mountbank. By the gods, I owe you. I don't know why she calls him Mountbank. I don't know if that's just a typing error or just something I don't understand. But he says, as I do you, witch, but Bishop is already paid for. And one thing I did skip over was he pulled out this crossbow. He's got all these weapons, too, and he shoots Bishop right in the arm with this crossbow, which kind of incapacitates him here at the end of the issue. So, get a great pinup here by Carlos Pacheco. Got Shard, Randall, and Bishop here. And that's the end of the issue. So, not really a whole lot to this issue. Unless you're a huge Bishop fan, there's really no reason to go out of your way to pick this up. I guess maybe if you're a huge Mountjoy fan, you might want to pick up his first appearance. But some awesome artwork here. Not much to the story, though. Very straightforward story. I feel like this could have just fit into any other Uncanny X-Men book. Didn't necessarily need to be a Bishop solo series, but this was a a 4-part miniseries. So I'll try and go back and get the rest of these issues coming up soon here. So thanks again for watching. That's all I got. I'll see you guys on the next one.